The struggles of Cape Town's homeless are being made more difficult by the municipality's bylaws. Lobby group Ndifuna Ukwazi, the bylaws in fact criminalise homelessness. That's what they say. It's currently in the middle of a court case with the city of Cape Town to have these laws scrapped. Our reporter Monique Mortlock joins us now for the latest. Monique, thank you for making time. Have you been able to speak to residents living in Sea Point about the homelessness situation?
Now, this is a topic that we've covered over the last few years, especially as some controversial campaigns have been taking place by some Sea Point residents and residents along the Atlantic seaboard to try and clean up Sea Point by clearing away homeless people and asking them to leave. And one of these people is Paul Jacobson, who I spoke to a little earlier. I'm still going to try and get a hold of the Sea Point Ratepayers Association just for a better representation of what the residents are saying, because I know that for the residents here in who stay at the Greenpoint Tennis Court, these homeless people have been helped by kind Samaritans who live in the area. So there are those who are okay to live alongside the homeless people. They understand the situation and the circumstances, and there are then those who say, no, our area needs to be cleared, and they stand with the city of Cape Town and the action that law enforcement officers took last week when they removed some of the residents or some of the homeless living here, taking away their tents, and the residents here also claiming that they even confiscated their personal belongings, which is what they have especially taken umbrage with. And Ndifuna Ukwazi helping the residents here to get a court order stating that the city of Cape Town needs to give back the possessions that was taken by law enforcement officers. But let's take a listen to what Paul Jacobson had to say when I asked him what his thoughts are on the city's so-called cleanup operation that it implemented last week.
I think it was within their rights to take a strong, stern, proactive role here and say enough is enough. You're endangering yourselves. That you are having no respect for the residents in your area. There's litter flying everywhere. There's human feces everywhere.
And what have the homeless been saying, Monique?
They've been saying this isn't the case. In fact, when we were here a little earlier, I'm quickly just going to ask my colleague Mario to show you from where we are standing. We can't see what Mr. Jacobson is talking about feces lying everywhere or litter lying everywhere. And when I spoke to some of the residents staying here, they say they're trying as best as they can to keep the area clear and clean, because they know some of the complaints that have been lodged against them or about them. And this is what the city of Cape Town has also been saying, is that last week's operation where law enforcement officers moved in here, told the residents to pack up their tent structures and to leave the area. Last week's operation was because of complaints that the city of Cape Town had allegedly received, and the city saying that it was within its right to do what it to take the action that it took last week. The homeless, however, disagreeing, saying that they have nowhere else to stay, saying that the shelters aren't always the best option for them, especially for those who don't have the money to maybe pay some of those shelter fees. Let's take a listen to what one former homeless person had to say, who's also helping Ndifuna Ukwazi with that court order or court case that it's taken against the city of Cape Town in representing homeless people when it comes to challenging those bylaws, which it says is discriminatory towards persons living on the street.
It's illegal to take those things. Yet, when I arrived here, about 60% of the people that actually live here weren't here. And they started breaking down tents with the people not even being there present and taking their belongings. That's theft. Irrespective of whether they're living on the streets or not, the property is being leased out to a different entity. And so to take people's stuff that's on this property is theft. And this is what we were trying to explain to them last week. We went to the police station because they're supposed to have the mandate of upholding the, what is a crime and what isn't criminal. And yet the police did nothing either, and they let us go carry on.
So what's the city saying now?
Well, when I asked the city, I posed specific questions related to law enforcement officers allegedly confiscating personal belongings. I asked the city, is this within the mandate of law enforcement officers to not only ask homeless people to leave private property or land that they are supposedly not allowed to be on? Is this part of law enforcement's mandate? Are they allowed to take personal belongings? The city then says because the matter is sub judice, it cannot comment on that, but they did release a statement a little earlier in which Cape Town Mayor Dan Plight said that the city was within its right and that the action that it took last week was lawful, and that it was asking organizations, and even though they didn't mention the name, one could gather that they were speaking about Ndifuna Ukwazi, saying that organizations are instead wasting time by challenging the city in court, when instead they should be working with the city and helping the city to get homeless people into shelters, into safe spaces. Mayor Plight is saying that there is space, that there are beds available for homeless people, and that before law enforcement officers moved in last week, that there were members from the social development department asking the residents staying on the street if they want to move into shelters, if they should take them to a safe space. But a little earlier, when I spoke to one of the homeless gentlemen here, Mr. Sean Herbert, he said that this isn't the first time that social development members or officials have told them this, and the last time they did this, which was a couple of weeks ago, some of the homeless residents were waiting for to be picked up and to be brought to the shelters, but that never happened. So it seems as if there's either some miscommunication or some confusion when it comes to what the city is saying and what the homeless people are saying.